It's the home of haggis, hogmanay and the Highlands. Amazing castles and stunning landscape. Yes, we made the trip up north to Scotland for the latest rounds of the Motorsport UK British Rallycross Championship 5 Nations Trophy, presented to you by Cooper Tyres. And what a weekend we have in store. So it's a warm welcome to Knockhill. So the scene is set for some thrilling racing here at Knockhill. So let's join our commentator, Tom Brooks.
Thanks very much indeed, Sam. Vittles, Godfrey and O'Donovan. Those are the three drivers we're looking at in the championship fight. Now, hopefully we'd see some fun action on track, much like we saw in pit lane as we get ready to go into the semis. Round 4 of the 5 Nations British Rallycross Championship. The marshal departs from the grid. Revs are ready to rise. Anti-lag is about to come on. Ready to race board is on. Green lights and go. Great start then from O'Donovan. Not bad at all from Tohill coming down the outside. Then as they go side by side down towards the first corner, it's O'Donovan on the inside, Tohill on the outside. Look at Donnelly trying to get through on Ovenden for third place. Doesn't quite manage to do it as O'Donovan leads the way on the gravel section then. So Ovenden pushed out wide. Down into fourth place goes the number 72. That's a big shame there for Ovenden after starting on the front row of the grid. But it is advantage of Ollie O'Donovan then, who leads the way coming through the gravel section for the first time. Look at Donnelly then. Is the reigning champion going to be able to do anything? He goes joker at the end of the first lap, does the reigning champ. So into the hairpin bend on the tarmac section, spins up the rear tyres, gets the car rotated, through into the chicane and onto the start-finish straight. Once again goes Mark Donnelly then. Look at Ollie O'Donovan though. He's pulled out over a second on Derek Tohill over that first lap. Emphatic form the number 2 is on. He has absolutely cleared up so far here today. He's finished on the top step of the podium in the first heat and he finished second in the second heat. As such, he led the point standings coming into this semi-final, and that Mark 7 Ford Fiesta has been on brilliant form with Ollie O'Donovan behind the wheel. Down the start-finish straight they go and in towards the first corner. It's still advantage for the Irishman at the moment, as Ovenden sits in second position. It's not been a bad weekend here so far for Tristan Ovenden, but he'll be hoping to extract a bit more potential from his car as they come in towards the finals later on here today. Someone who is extracting the potential of his car is Ollie O'Donovan, who goes joker at the end of lap 4 then. So the race leader into the joker, into that hairpin bend, spins up the rear tyres, gets the car rotated, slightly wider line through there than some of the other drivers, but manages to get on the power and actually clips a bollard coming through there. So hopefully the stewards won't be looking at that too closely as he comes over the timing line to start the final lap. Ovenden has also gone through, and Ovenden has not yet jokered, so he's on the final lap, so we'll be jokering of course at the end of this lap as a result. So though he sits in the race lead, the de facto race lead belongs to Ollie O'Donovan from Derek Tohill, from Mark Donnelly, who's just dropped back a tad over the last couple of corners or so. Doesn't quite seem to have what it takes to put the fight to the front. And Derek Tohill going round in the background there as well. So big drama for the Irishman, whether he clipped a tyre on the infield section. I mentioned just how tight it was, and that has cost him very dearly indeed. Ovenden goes joker. He's going to emerge down in third place as O'Donovan comes over the line to take the checkered flag. And I wonder, actually, as Ovenden does come home in second position, of course, because Tohill was running P2. So it's O'Donovan from Ovenden, from Donnelly at the checkered flag. And I wonder whether there was maybe a little bit of contact between Donnelly and Tohill. Those two are running quite close together. Either way, there was a stricken bit of bodywork in the middle of that gravel section. That's going to need to be recovered. But it's Ollie O'Donovan who takes the win in semi-final 1 for round 4 here at Knockhill.
Derek, just talk me through what happened in that semi-final.
I think I just got a little bit too brave in the end. It was across the back section on the loose and I was getting too confident with the track and probably just took too much, was asking too much of the car, and quite lucky not to roll the car and have a much bigger accident.
The marshal then departs from the grid. We're ready to get semi-final 2 underway for round 4 of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship. Ready to race board then is on, anti-lag on, revs are rising. Semi-final 2, green light and go, great start from Vittles. Not a bad initial launch there from Godfrey, but he struggles in the second phase, as does Mike Seller as well. So it's Vittles versus Hill down towards the first corner. It's the Latvian driver in the Citroen C4 that has the advantage and has the lead as they come down Duffer's Dip onto the gravel for the first time. So it's Vittles from Hill, from Mike Seller, and Julian Godfrey's middle of the front row start has all come to nothing, sadly, after he struggled to get away. Whether that was an issue with the clutch or whether it was just a driver error, I'm not 100% sure of this stage, but either way, it has put him very much on the back foot in semi-final 2. Off the gravel they come, onto the tarmac. Going Joker then is Steve Hill from second position. So Hill goes Joker, decides to go early doors on that one, and off the track has got Mike Seller. I can see from my commentary position there as well. He's relatively inexperienced with this circuit, is Mike Seller. He still sits in third place, but has lost time hand over fist compared to the rest of the field to start the fourth lap, the penultimate tour of the semi-finals here for the supercars then. And Godfrey looks to be struggling with that Ford Fiesta. There's a bit of smoke coming out the back of the car. I'm not sure if my eyes were deceiving me there, but either way, he's just not looking as comfortable and as collected as he was. Let's not forget, back at Pembrey a couple of weeks ago, he was so quick in that Mark V Ford Fiesta, and it just all seems to have gotten away from him here at Knockhill. Whether that's a car issue, whether it's just perhaps he's not a fan of the circuit, I'm not sure, but either way, pulling off the circuit now is Julian Godfrey, so a definite technical problem there for the number 20, and it brings a very early end to his race, and that is going to be disastrous for his starting position in the final, and certainly his points tally from round 4 of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship then here as well. No such problems though, meanwhile, for Robert Vittles. He has driven this race to perfection, and the 18-year-old Latvian once again is proving why he is held in such high esteem in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship. Through the tri-oval he comes, onto the start-finish straight, and it's a win in semi-final 2 for Robert Vittles in the Citroen C4. What a fantastic performance from the young Latvian driver. Over the line he comes, and he'll be delighted with that because, of course, it means that he will get that front row start, crucially, for the final later on here today. Steve Hill comes home in second position. Mike Seller, a little bit of a distant third place. I believe he will come over the timing line, although according to my timing screen, yeah, he has just come over, so quite a way back, but he does come home in third place. And, of course, Julian Godfrey not making the checkered flag following that technical drama with his Ford Fiesta. Let's hope that it's not a terminal one, and we'll see him out on the grid for the final. But it's setting up to be a very exciting affair as we get ready for the final of round 4 of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship. As the rain began to fall at Knockhill, the Junior Rallycross Championship final got underway in the Suzuki Swift as Max Langmaid led the way down towards the first corner from Will Ovenden and Max Watt. They went side by side into turn 1 with Langmaid getting the early advantage. But there was a red flag early doors as a result of Caitlin May spectacularly rolling her car on the gravel section. Fortunately, young Caitlin was able to emerge from the vehicle okay, and sadly would not take to the restart of the race at this point in the day for the round. The car was righted as she made her way back into the paddock, understandably a bit disappointed. The second running of the race we hoped would be a slightly calmer affair, but sadly that didn't prove to be the case either, as Corey Paget ended up rolling in even more spectacular fashion after contact with the Latvian driver Laura Vittula. Here you can see them on the gravel section. 2 into 1 doesn't go, very tight through there. Paget, thankfully, again, emerging okay, but a second red flag coming out in the Junior Rallycross Championship as Corey made his way out of the car with the assistance of the marshals and the medical team here at Knockhill, and we had to get the race running for a third time. Junior class final then, green light and go. Good start from Robbins, great start from Langmaid, not bad from Ovenden off the middle of the front row. Look at Finley Scott in the yellow machine coming towards the outside, trying to slice his way through as they come down towards the first corner. So it's Robbins on the outside that's got the advantage at the moment. Langmaid's on the inside there. Finley Scott goes towards the outside, leans on. Finley Scott does Max Langmaid there, and Scott goes off towards the centre of Edinburgh, I think he was off into there, as Owen Robbins is in the gravel at turn 1 as well. Now going joker then is Max Langmaid at the end of lap 3, so the halfway stage is when he decides to go joker. I think Ovenden followed him through there as well. In fact, no, it wasn't Ovenden, it was actually the 110 of Max Watts. So he goes through in the 110 machine in 3rd position then in this race. And effectively they're going side by side down the straight as well. I think that's Laura Bittler who's trying to get up the inside of Max Watts. Indeed it is for 3rd position effectively in this race, because Upton hasn't jokered, and that is Watt off at the first corner on the edge of adhesion. Too much he's asking from the front tyres, and he's done exactly what Finlay Scott did in the first corner of this race and sent it straight into the centre of Edinburgh. I think he was so far out he'll probably need a ticket to get back in from there, but that's not ideal at all. And that is Finlay Scott having a second off-track excursion and a second trip to the gravel trap at the first corner as well. As Max Langmaid comes around the final turn, over the timing line he will come. The number 15, Max Langmaid, another win in the Junior Rallycross Championship as he takes the checkered flag in the final for round 5 here. Will Ovenden, the number 5, is going to come home in 2nd position. And then it will be Caitlin May who comes over in 3rd place at the end of that race. A battered and bruised car, but a very massaged ego, I'm sure, after that race, finishing in 3rd place. So 2 junior Swift cars in the gravel at the end of that final. Owen Robbins and Finlay Scott sadly not making the checkered flag here. So this is the battle then for the de facto race lead in this one. Owen Robbins being lent on there by Finlay Scott, and contact up the inside. Scott goes round, as does Watt as well. So both drivers off into the barrier. Robbins goes round, he's into the tyre wall, and that's a big impact at the final corner. And Max Langmaid, what luck, what brilliance, what drama, what composure from the number 15 as he comes around the final corner and across the line to win the final in the Junior Rallycross Championship, ahead of Will Ovenden and Finlay Scott, finishing in 2nd, 3rd respectively. Sadly, Owen Robbins ends his race in the tyre barrier, and of course we saw Max Watt not ending his race in the gravel trap, but certainly running wide and costing him time. Well, a very dramatic conclusion then to the Junior Rallycross Championship. An 8-driver strong final for the supercars here at Knockhill is about to get underway. It'll be Ollie O'Donovan who starts on pole position, with Robert Spittles in the black Citroen C4 and Ovenden in the red Citroen DS3 alongside him. The marshal then points towards the lighting gantry. The final for round 4 of the supercars is about to get underway. Ready to race ball then is on here at Knockhill. Green light and go, great start from Ovenden, and sadly Bittles doesn't get away at all as they come down towards the first corner. So it's O'Donovan then with the advantage. Ovenden gets challenged by Steve Hill, they make contact into the first corner. So Ovenden then loses out as O'Donovan leads the way from Steve Hill, from Ovenden, from Mike Seller, as Tohill's into the gravel at the first turn and loses time then to Mark Donnelly. But another perfect start to the race once again for the Irishman Ollie O'Donovan. He leads the way as he comes through the gravel section for the first time. Let's see what's going to play out as the drivers come into their joker laps and see whether anybody goes in for the first time. Yes, they do, and that looks like it was the reigning champion of Mark Donnelly who went in for his joker on the first time. Likewise, Derek Tohill, so those 2 drivers going through, and sadly there for the reigning champion, losing traction and losing position to the number 111 of Tohill, and slowing on the exit of that as well. And O'Donovan, the race leaders, into the gravel. I don't believe it. Off goes Seller as well. Goodness me, what drama. So it's Hill that leads the way from Ovenden, from Ollie O'Donovan then, as they come through into the final series of corners once more. Absolutely unbelievable. We only caught the back end of what happened there to Ollie O'Donovan, but that is absolutely huge. Maybe he lost it on the painted part on the curb. It's really slippery down through there. You can see how shiny it is. It's very greasy, very wet. And as such, there's not a lot of grip at all. And either way, Steve Hill looks like he could be on for a win here if he keeps it in the straight and narrow. Sadly, Mike Sellers' race has ended very early in the gravel trap at that second corner at Duffer's Dip, and he'll be very disappointed with that because it's not the first time he's been in there so far here today. Good to see that Robert Spitzels did manage to get going after pretty much a non-start. He didn't move away at all, and Mark Donnelly has retired also from this race. So we're 2 drivers down already, and we're only at the halfway stage here at Knockhill as Hill comes over the timing line once again to start lap 4. And he's pulling out an advantage actually over Tristan Ovenden as well. 1.9 seconds it sits at between the top 2. So that's a very welcome sight there for Steve Hill. 71 years old he is, I remind you as well. The oldest competitor by some margin in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship, at least in the supercars category. And now he is on for a very promising result here, as O'Donovan has also dropped back as well, now behind Robert Spitzels. So what has happened to Ollie O'Donovan here? Was it a technical problem that's robbed him of victory here? Either way, now Robert Spitzels goes joker as he pulls out from behind Tristan Ovenden into the hairpin bend they go. So Robert Spitzels here, despite not getting away at all at the start, could be on for a net podium finish if it stays as it is through the gravel, through the cement dust, I should say, owing to an earlier engine problem for one of our competitors here at Knockhill. He goes out of the joker lap. He's made his already, doesn't have to worry about that, as Ovenden gets it a bit sideways and a bit wide through those first series of corners there. So, well, this is very interesting indeed. So through into the final series of corners, there's Mike Sellers' stricken Citroen C DS3, as I mentioned earlier on in this race. There is Steve Hill, though, the race leader, coming through into the joker then for the final time, and taking out cones there is Ovenden. I think he was just a bit target fixated on the back of Steve Hill there and made a very late decision to not joker, of course, because Ovenden is going to do it at the end of the last lap. So a last-minute change in strategy then for Tristan Ovenden. We know that Robert Spitzels, who is now sitting in the de facto race lead, has already made his joker. So he is on for a net podium finish if it stays as it is. But let's see what is going to happen here and wait and find out how it's all going to play out then. There is Ollie O'Donovan in second position now as Steve Hill's made his joker, so he's dropped back behind him and spins on the exit of T2. Oh, Steve Hill, he's thrown a podium away at the end of this race. That's such a shame for the Mitsubishi Evo 10 driver then. And what an absolutely phenomenal race it's been. Robert Spitzels then out of the final corner and over the line. He just kept his nose clean, and despite not making it at the start, wins the final for round 4 of the supercars here at Knockhill, ahead of Ollie O'Donovan, ahead of Steve Hill, ahead of Tristan Ovenden, and then ahead ahead of Ovenden and ahead of Tohill, who now inherits 4th position, with Steve Hill finishing right down the order owing to that spin. Mike Seller, of course, sadly not making the checkered flag as a result of that gravel trap excursion, the car needing to be recovered by the marshals here. But Robert Spitzels then, well, he kept his powder dry, kept his nose clean at the end of that race, and that's all he needed to do, really. He benefited from other people's misfortune and, of course, from having great pace once he got going as well. Sad for Ollie O'Donovan ending up in the gravel at that first corner. That cost him a chance of the win in the final for round 4 here in the supercars. Such a shame to end the race under those circumstances. But once again, huge congratulations to Robert Spitzels, who wins round 4, taking his 2nd win of the season in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship.
I switched off the car on the start because I misclicked the buttons. Ready to race comes on, nothing's happening, no sound, everyone's gone. I'm like, what's happening? Ignition off, okay. 6 laps, pushing, really pushing without mistakes. Pushing, and then like 2 laps before the end, so first 2 coming out of the joker and I'm in front. And my dad in non-sputtering was, I think you are first. And I'm like, yes, let's go. And oh my God, but that is so enjoyable. I enjoyed it a lot, and then what a drive it was, yeah.
I'd been cutting the curve all day and getting away with it really nicely. Just didn't do anything different, made a good start in the lead, turned into the curve, and the car just got light and did a 360 in the air. And it landed, I was facing the wrong direction. It was a big fight to get back from there.
Roberts is definitely chasing your tail. It's turning into quite an interesting contest in the hunt for that championship.
It's really, really close, and I ain't giving up. We're still king of the jungle.
The RX 150 buggies were always going to be an exciting affair, and here at Knockhill in Scotland, that was no exception. It was Stephen Jones who led the way down towards the first corner from Tommy Caldwell, but championship leader Patrick O'Donovan faltered and was down in 4th place by the first turn. Later on in the race, Caldwell got the better of Stephen Jones to take the round 5 final win from Jones, and O'Donovan, who recovered to 3rd position by the time the checkered flag came out. Sunday's round 6 final once again saw drama for Patrick O'Donovan as he had to slow and take to the grass after emerging from the gravel section. A brilliant display of car control though from the Northern Irishman as he slowed that RX 150 buggy down in spectacular fashion through the Joker lap, and then had a lot of work to do to try and challenge for the podium positions in this final. Through the chicane, onto the start-finish straight, and then he was right onto the back of Tommy Caldwell, who was now in the purple number 49 before the end of this race. Meanwhile, Steve Jones had a clear view of the circuit out in front of him at this particular point as he came through the tri-oval hairpin, but then there was further drama for O'Donovan as he stopped on the exit of the first corner. Whether that was a spin or a technical problem, we don't quite know. However, what we do know is when he came back onto the track, the cold tyres and the dirty tyres caused another spin for POD. A very challenging weekend, I think it's fair to say, for him here in Scotland. Anyway, once all the jokers worked out, it was Tommy Caldwell once again who emerged on top ahead of Stephen Jones. 2 wins from 2 rounds for Caldwell, and only 2 drivers claiming the checkered flag after O'Donovan dropped a lap following his dramas in that round 6 final. He sadly would not be classified along with Billy Alexander, with 4 drivers starting the race, but only 2 being classified at the finish as the checkered flag fell. But it was Caldwell on top again. The BMW Minis final saw the rain falling as Dave Bellaby had pole position and led the way down to the first corner. Ben Sayer tried to overtake him but ended up overtaking himself, and Dave Ellis followed him into the gravel trap at the first turn. So Bellaby led the way from Tom Constantine as Ellis and Sayer had to do all they could to recover. Bellaby using his years of experience to take the checkered flag ahead of Tom Constantine, with Sayer managing to recover to 3rd by the time the checkered flag came out. A great result there for Ben, good damage limitation. But let's go over then, shall we, to the final for round 6 on Sunday. Let's see what happens down towards the first corner for the final as we go racing. Good start then from Bellaby. Great start on the outside as well for Dave Ellis. Not so good away from Tom Constantine in the initial phase as they come down towards the first corner. Look at Brown on the inside on the second row of the grid as well. Into the first turn, it's Bellaby that leads the way from Constantine then. Look who's there. It's Darren Bleasdale. He's going to be ready to try and take advantage if anything goes wrong between those 2 drivers, or if they keep squabbling amongst one another, he may have an opportunity to find his way through. And that's Dave Bellaby, the race leader, pulling off. What drama here, a mechanical problem surely for Bellaby, and that is going to hand Tom Constantine the race lead. And look in the background as well, that is Brad Turner who's off. What's happened here? Tom Constantine comes out of the final corner and across the line to win the BMW Minis final for round 6 here at Knockhill. It's Constantine on top here in Scotland, ahead of Dave Ellis, who finishes in 2nd position, and Steve Brown comes over in 3rd place to score some crucial championship points.
What happened then, Dave?
A relay jumped out. Something so silly. Nothing I could do. Hey ho, that's racing.
Well, hard luck there for Dave Bellaby. For the round 5 final for the Suzuki Swifts on Saturday, it was Max Weatherly who started from pole position with Luke and James Constantine alongside as they dragged down towards the first corner. It was an action-packed affair in the final as we head into the final lap now to see what happened. And there's so much undulation through there as well that it really does make it quite tricky. And you can see there, oh, massive contact, a huge incident there. The door was shut by David Watt, and James Constantine into the wall, into the side of Luke Constantine there as well. Smoke pouring out of the Suzuki Swifts. Max Weatherly comes over the line to take the checkered flag in the final for the Suzuki Swifts, but massive drama there. David Watt just didn't look at his mirrors, didn't see what was going on there, didn't see that James Constantine was trying to send it through up the inside, and a huge coming together involving 3 cars at the end of the final in the Suzuki Swifts. Big drama. Those are the stakes in Rallycross. They're always pretty high. The main thing is that all the drivers are out and okay following that crash, but, well, a frightening end to the Suzuki Swift final here in Knockhill.
Emotions no doubt running high at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, that's racing, and as long as we're all in one piece, and yeah, that's the main thing.
What about the car? Having a look at it, can we sort it out? Can the guys sort it out for tomorrow?
Not for tomorrow, no. I definitely need reselling, so yeah.
Knockhill then over for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So I dropped back behind my cousin James, and he was catching a slower car, and as he went up the inside of him, he got squeezed into the tyres. He was side on the track on 2 wheels, and I had nowhere to go. And by the time, I was right up behind him when it happened, so by the time it happened, I didn't have any time to react. So I ended up hitting him at flat out, basically. I don't think we'll be back out tomorrow, personally, but that's racing, I suppose.
I was running in second, and going through the loose, I was losing a little bit of power, and unfortunately one of the Constantines didn't quite, maybe just misread it slightly, and came flying into the back of me to spun me round, and then unfortunately Luke just collected all the accident behind him, so that's why the 2 boys collided.
Everything okay there with the car, ready to rock?
Yeah, so we got it back ready because I think they're going to rerun the race according to Willie. They're just looking at the statistics and the data at the minute, so yeah, we're ready to go again.
Well, the main thing is that all 3 drivers were okay following that. On round 5's rerun on Saturday, it was Weatherly who took the win, and here for round 6 on Sunday, he was repeating exactly the same story. A slightly reduced grid, of course, with the 2 Constantine cousins not taking the checkered flag, but very important here for Weatherly, especially with his championship challenge coming into the final stages of the 2021 season. Weatherly across the line to claim the checkered flag, 2 wins from 2 rounds in the Suzuki Swift. Here at Knockhill, he was just on imperious form.
Well, there's little time to pause for breath with an action-packed schedule here at Knockhill. So let's rejoin Tom.
Cheers, Sam. Here we are for round 5 on Sunday in Q1. It was Ollie O'Donovan who had the early pace, but as he emerged from the Joker, the fast-charging Latvian Vittels decided to get involved. Followed him through, yeah, he did. So Sella goes Joker, and contact has emerged, Vittels, and O'Donovan emerged from the Joker. Oh, a broken suspension surely there for Vittels. The car is crabbing down the start-finish straight, and that's an end in dramatic fashion in Q1 race 2 here for Robert Vittels. Ollie O'Donovan then with rear bumper damage there as well. If that's all he suffered, I'll be mightily surprised, but 2 into 1 doesn't go. It was a tight exit on the Joker there for Ollie O'Donovan. He was already running his line. Vittels came round the corner. He's pulled off to the side of the track on the grass by T1, and that is an unfortunate end for Robert Vittels and could have very big implications for his running here today in round 5 of the 5 Nations British Rallycross Championship.
Vittels came off the main track and he used the full track. I don't believe he hit the cones for the merge. I think he cleared them, I'm not sure. But then we met with about 120 mile an hour side impact.
Ollie came out of the Joker, and when we met together at the Joker exit, we had a bit of crash. That's how my run ended.
I don't think he done anything wrong. I don't know. I'd rather fight a race than knocking each other out. You know, we want a good clean race.
Ready to race board on, green light and about to go. Now, good start then from O'Donovan on the outside. Good start from Tohill as well as he gets ahead of Julian Godfrey. Godfrey drops to the back of the field as Ovenden gets into 3rd place then. Down to the first corner, we've got 2 Ford Fiestas. It's O'Donovan ahead of Tohill then. So the Northern Irishman ahead of the Irishman. Into the gravel section we go, and it's O'Donovan with the advantage. Once again, he cleaned up here yesterday at Knockhill, and sadly it all went wrong for him in the final. He's doing his best to try and make amends for it in this Q3 session here, but he's going to have a hard task to overhaul the fast charging Derek Tohill, who's going to go Joker at the end of the first lap. That's sensible for him, gets himself out of traffic and will hopefully get him a bit of clear air to try and close that gap down then to Ollie O'Donovan. So O'Donovan and Ovenden then continue on their normal lap, as Tohill does go joker at the end of the first lap. It looks like Godfrey is up into third place now, ahead of Tohill at the checkered flag, but I say that the timing line, I should say, rather, and you can see there a bollard being kicked up by Tristan Ovenden as he just makes a bit of a hash of that first corner. But it's now, I believe, Tohill up into third place ahead of Julian Godfrey. That was over the start-finish straight, so that position for third place, it looks like it's changed hands between the top two. But O'Donovan then continues on into the hairpin bend. He goes with Ovenden not too far adrift, just 0.8 of a second back, a little bit wide there for Tristan Ovenden into the tri-oval, just kicking up a bit of grass as he comes out of the final corner and over the line once more. We're already on lap 3, so the penultimate tour here at Knockhill. Going joker on that lap was Julian Godfrey from third position then, so he gets out of the way of Derek Tohill, slides its way through that chicane and onto the start finish straight, drops back down to fourth place. So sadly the difficult start of the race for Julian Godfrey, putting pay to that, and I imagine that the car probably not performing to its best potential, given that, you know, let's be honest, it was on fire a couple of hours ago. Problems for Julian Godfrey on the slowdown lap. There was a fire with this car yesterday in practice for Mark Donnelly, and sadly it's reared its ugly head at the end of Q2 race 1 here. Anyway, coming towards the end of this race, does O'Donovan go joker at the end of this lap? Yes, he does. Into the hairpin bend he will go. Ovenden should follow him through, I imagine, at the end then of this lap, but doesn't actually, so goes on for his normal lap there, so gets a bit of a day in the sun as he starts his final lap. Let's see whether that proves to be something that pays off, but he was quite a way back from O'Donovan. Crucially though, O'Donovan ahead of Tohill on the final lap, so that was the battle for the race lead, but of course the strategy split the two drivers up. You can see how close they are running to each other. It was just 0.4 of a second, the gap between them as they came over the timing line. Very sideways on the gravel there for Ovenden, and into the wall at the end of Q3 on the final lap, so that's put pay to any possible chance of taking second place there for Tristan Ovenden, and he'll just about hold on for a podium if he's lucky. But it's O'Donovan versus Tohill then for the win in the Q3 race 2 here at Knockhill, and O'Donovan is going to take it out of the final corner over the line. It's Ollie O'Donovan who wins Q3 race 2 from Derek Tohill, and I wonder who's going to get third place, because that spin for Ovenden, costing him time as well as bodywork damage, I think is going to allow Julian Godfrey to inherit third position. Let's see as he comes over the line. Nope, Julian Godfrey does not inherit third place, so Ovenden does just manage to hold off to get third position, and crucially some points on the board. But it's Ollie O'Donovan who takes the checkered flag in Q3 race 2 here in Scotland. In the final for round 5 in the Supernational class and Super 1600s at Knockhill, it was Bleasdale from Bellaby from Volok down to the first turn. In the Super 1600 class, you can see contact there between Chicken and Lomax, with Chicken ending up in the gravel and right at the back of the field. At the front, it was Jason Bleasdale behind the wheel of his Vauxhall VX220, who was on absolutely imperious form through the final series of corners and across the line with no clear competition from behind to take the checkered flag and the win for round 5 in the Supernational class, ahead of Paige Bellaby and Slamir Volok at the timing line. Sadly, Darren Scott in the Super 1600 class retired early with a mechanical problem. You can see his car stricken on the circuit. That left Craig Lomax to take the spoils in the Super 1600 category. Green light and go. Good start from Volok on the outside of the front row. Look at Bellaby though. She's away like a stabbed rat down towards the first corner, side by side with Volok and Bellaby then down towards T1, and Volok tries to squeeze Bellaby. Contact into the first corner. That was really aggressive from Slamir Volok. Chops the nose off of Paige Bellaby and leads the way into the first turn. So Volok from Bellaby from Jason Bleasdale into the first turn as they come onto the gravel then for the first time. Well, I wonder whether the stewards might be having a little bit of a look at that. We know how aggressive Volok can be, and that was certainly an example of that at the start of the race. Look at this as Jason Bleasdale has managed to leap from Paige Bellaby after jokering early doors then as well. So that's worked out very nicely here for Jason Bleasdale, and you can tell that Paige Bellaby's not going to take it lying down as they come down towards the first corner. Those two drivers were very close to one another, almost side by side. Bit of dust is kicked up there in the foreground as well, as Volok presumably went a bit wide onto the gravel section there. But the upshot is that Craig Lomax, of course, having not jokered in the Super 1600 class, sits in second place. So the battle for third is actually the battle for second in this race, and it's Bleasdale versus Bellamy as it stands here. And if we look back yesterday, of course, we know that Bleasdale took the checkered flag, but sadly, it looks like it might be a bit of a bridge too far, given Slamir Bollock's pace so far in this race. Here is Craig Lomax going joker from the Super 1600 class then here. Into that hairpin bend he goes. Of course, as I mentioned earlier on, he is the only competitor in that Super 1600 class, so has no competition from behind or in front as it stands at the moment. And likewise here, this man as well of Slamir Bollock has got no competition immediately from behind. Down into the joker he will go for the final lap, for the last time of asking, and it is going to be a win for Slamir Bollock in the Supernational class in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship here at Knockhill through the chicane. Oh, it's not though, because look at this. Jason Bleasdale's pulled something out of the bag on the last lap, and Bleasdale mugs Bollock on the line then. I thought Bollock would have had that for the taking, but Bleasdale's pace on the last couple of laps was absolutely emphatic. He really pulled it out. He was half a second quicker on that last lap than Bollock, and that was all the difference it needed for Bleasdale to take the win. So goodness me, Jason Bleasdale somehow pulls it out of the bag and wins the Supernational final here from Slamir Bollock. Bellamy comes home third, and then it's Craig Lomax, who we saw, of course, down on the back end of the circuit there, sadly stopping on the track with what looks to be some kind of a technical problem, and that's a disappointing end and a very disappointing weekend all round for the Super 1600 competitors here at Knockhill. But Jason Bleasdale makes it 2 wins in 2 rounds here in Scotland. How on earth did he do that?
There is so much to offer in this championship because, of course, you've got the big boys, the supercars, such as the Mitsubishi Evo 10 of Steve Hill. But you've also got the historics, the retros, such as this, the iconic Mark I Ford Escort of Simon Hart. So here's Tom to tell you more.
So what is the retro class? Well, it's not just a load of old bangers racing on track. The retro class is comprised of old cars that would have been state-of-the-art back in Rallycross in the 70s, 80s and 90s, and nowadays we've seen them competing on track again in closely fought battles. The main difference between the retro class and the others in British Rallycross is that they run the same rules as they did back in their heyday, and that means no joker laps. It's also a great opportunity to see a variety of different engine placements and drivetrains together, which is not often seen in Rallycross nowadays. Anyway, let's join the action then, shall we, for the final of round 5 in the Super Retro and Retro class here at Knockhill in Scotland.
As a light sprinkling of rain falls over the circuit here at Knockhill, it's been threatening all day, but we're ready to get the Super Retro and Retro final underway. Vince Bristow, Barry Stewart, John Cross on the front row of the grid, ready to race board on. Green light and go. Good start from the rear engines, rear-wheel drive Porsche. And Barry Stewart as he leads the way down the corner. A poor getaway, though, for Vince Bristow as he drops all the way back down into 4th, maybe 5th position by the first turn. So it's Stewart that leads the way from John Cross, from Phil Collard then, as Bristow goes up the inside and leans on Ray Morgan through the first turn. Morgan's out onto the dirt and now drops right to the back of the field as a result of that. So that's unfortunate there for the Ford Escort driver. Vince Bristow's getting his elbows out on the dirt and makes contact with Phil Collard. Goes through though into 3rd place. Nicely done there for Vince Bristow as he is really looking to try and get himself up the sharp end of the grid before too long. So onto the tarmac they go once again. No joker laps for these retro drivers, to remind you, of course. They only compete under the circumstances they would have raced back in the day, which means that they just compete under the normal laps. Windscreen wipers on though for Vince Bristow, so the rain might be increasing in intensity as John Cross pulls to the inside, as Phil Collard also gets himself ahead of Vince Bristow in towards the first corner. So it's Barry Stewart from John Cross, from Phil Collard, who takes a nice tight defensive line there in the Renault 5 Turbo. What a fantastic looking machine that is as well. Great to see it back on the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship grid. and you can now see that Vince Bristow's getting his elbows out as he puts pressure onto the back of Phil Collard, but Phil Collard very firmly shutting the door, leaving no room there for Vince Bristow to go. Tries to go for the inside line now, does Bristow, on the brakes, very close onto the back of Stewart as Bristow goes up the inside and goes through into third position then. Well, this is very exciting stuff. And trying to see if he can find his way through on Phil Collard on the dirt section. Very sideways indeed from that E36 BMW. Even more sideways for Collard, makes contact with Barry Stewart, spins it round, loops it, big old pirouette, facing the right way fortunately, and smoke pouring from the rear, or flames I should say, pouring from the rear of his Renault 5 as he tries to get the car ignited again and back up and running, fuel firing out of the back of the exhaust. And fortunately for him, he keeps it on the straight and narrow and is able to continue on, but now the smoke is pouring, so I wonder whether there's a technical problem there for the Renault 5 and for Phil Collard, and that will be a very big shame to end his race under such a cloud, quite literally, of smoke. If that is the way it concludes. We're on the final lap of racing though, and it's all action stations at the front now because John Cross is coming under pressure from Vince Bristow. All the while that drama was going on, this has been taking place at the front here, and Bristow is now ahead on the final lap of John Cross. So whether Cross has got a problem, he's certainly slowing in that Lancia Stratos, and Vince Bristow is going to come through to take an unlikely win in the Super Retro final. Out of the final corner, punches it to the line, and Vince Bristow in the 97 wins the Super Retro final here at Knockhill from John Cross. And then it's going to be Ray Morgan who inherits third position right at the very end of that one, ahead of Phil Collard, who despite those dramas did manage to take fourth place ahead of Maroney on the number 70, then Dave Ewan in the number 17. Barry Stewart comes home down in 7th position after those dramas that he suffered as well, and Simon Hart in the retro class, the only retro classed driver in this final, will come home in 8th and last position. But well, a very unlikely win in that Super Retro final here at Knockhill as the rain begins to pour. Time for a rerun then of the Super Retro final. Sadly, we've lost Tony Lynch after a roll in the first running of the race. Here potentially as well, and that is a big problem, I'm afraid to say, for Tony Lynch and Simon Hart in the retro class. Tony Lynch's MR2 is on his side, and Simon Hart's 137 is facing the wrong way, coming through the gravel then. There is Simon Hart just going a bit wide through the final series of corners. Hart, of course, is competing in the retro class rather than the super retro class, so it's a slightly slower category of machine, and as such you shouldn't expect Simon Hart to be fighting up the sharp end with the likes of this man here, Barry Stewart, who's just coming through on his final lap and into the final corner. It's a brilliant race for Barry Stewart. He comes around the final corner and over the timing line to win round 6 in the super retro class here at Knockhill, ahead of John Cross, who finishes 2nd for the second day on the bounce here in Scotland. Ray Morgan finishes 3rd for the second day on the bounce as well, ahead of Vince Bristow. And that's a commendable effort from Barry Stewart as well. He finished 7th in the Super Retro final yesterday after contact in the early stages of the race. And now he turns the tables around by finishing at the top of the order. And great job as well from Simon Hart. Though he's away back from the Super Retro class, he comes into the final series of corners, gets it a bit sideways through there, and will come around to win the retro category as well. He may not have had any competition following Tony Lynch's earlier exit in the first running of the race, but it can't be disputed that of course he kept it on the straight and narrow, and as such he deserves to win that retro category. Barry Stewart though, the winner in the Super Retro class, round 6 final here in Scotland.
Well, let's quickly grab a word with Julian Godfrey. I mean, Julian, you have had a very, very busy day at the office. Are you going to get out for the final?
Yes, we'll go out for the final. We've repaired the oil hose at Split, and just got to get on 4 cylinders and hopefully be okay for the final.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 of us there that very, very tight. So, but look, we're on pole. If we can get to start, yeah, we can control the race. It's getting dusty and bumpy out there, so I think it's important to be out front from the word go.
It will be a tough final once again, and yeah, just let's see who is the fastest. Yeah.
Just got to make a good launch and try and get in front of the rest of the boys if I can. So I'll give it a go anyway. I've done it already, so we'll try and do it again.
Drivers then lined up on the grid, ready for the final of round 5 of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship here at Knockhill. Ready to race, board is on. Supercars final. Green light and we're racing. Good launch there from Tohill. Great from O'Donovan off the front row. Look at Steve Hill coming through on the inside as well of Julian Godfrey down towards the first corner. Tohill leads into the first turn, followed by O'Donovan. Look at Julian Godfrey on the outside now of Steve Hill. He's up into third place. Great start then from Hill. So it's Tohill then from O'Donovan, from Godfrey, from Hill, from Ovenden, from Vittles, who's made a really poor start off of that second row of the grid, and that's compounding a challenging day so far for the young Latvian driver. Through the gravel they go for the first time of asking. Mike Seller brings up the rear of the field as they come through onto the tarmac. Who's going to go Joker at the end of the first lap? I think Hill may do. O'Donovan certainly has done as he comes through that hairpin bend. And onto the start-finish straight he'll go as he negotiates his way through the chicane. He's just going to emerge out ahead of Mike Seller, or at least side by side with Mike Seller. In fact, he's got the overcut and gets himself ahead of the number 69. Hill also went through on that Joker, as I mentioned, going through there as well. So now it is advantage Derek Tohill as he sits a little bit further ahead of Julian Godfrey. 3.1 seconds it was over the timing line last time around, and this will be a brilliant result here for Derek Tohill if the Irishman can do the business in the final. Look though at Robert Vittles in the 126 all over the back of Tristan Ovenden as he tries to find his way past the Citroen DS3 driver. Ovenden goes Joker at the end of lap 2 then. That gives a bit of clear air, thankfully then for Vittles, as Ovenden negotiates his way through the hairpin. Bit of understeer through there, runs it a bit wide. That won't help his drive onto the straight as he negotiates his way through the chicane and emerges behind Steve Hill there. So Ovenden out of contention for a podium result as it stands at the moment. Here though is Ollie O'Donovan. He made his Joker in the early stages and now he's got to wait for the race to come to the Northern Irishman. Let's see whether it does though. On the gravel we are though, meanwhile with Julian Godfrey and Robert Vittles. The Latvian driver has really got the bit between his teeth and he's all over the back of the DS3 here, down into the braking zone, into the tri-oval hairpin. So can Vittles find his way past Julian Godfrey, the 6-time champion, before the end of this race? Onto the start-finish straight we go, and you can see there that Godfrey has just got enough straight-line speed to keep the 126 of Vittles at bay for the time being. But look how hard Vittles is pushing on the brakes into that first corner. He's really got the bit between his teeth, and he's trying to find his way through. But can he do so? That's the crucial question. There's only 2 laps now remaining here. Onto the gravel. This is where Vittles seems to be so much stronger than Julian Godfrey at this stage in the race. And I have to say, regardless, it's a remarkable drive from Godfrey as the race leader Tohill goes Joker then at the end of lap 4. Now, how is this going to play out for Tohill? He had a 4.6 second advantage over Godfrey over the timing line last time around. Godfrey, of course, has not made his Joker then, so emerges in front, as does Robert Vittles, who has also not made his Joker then in this race. So let's see how it's going to play out. You know that Vittles, of course, is going to drop behind the race leader of, or the effective race leader, I should say, of Derek Tohill at the moment. But of course, it's all set to change hands. So now it's Vittles who leads the way then, as Godfrey, of course, jokered on that last lap, unsighted to us on the screen. So Godfrey then went Joker, and that released Vittles into the race lead, and Derek Tohill then now inherits second place and the race lead now as Vittles goes Joker at the end of lap 5. So through the hairpin goes the Latvian driver. Now where is he going to emerge? It's going to be really close actually as he comes back onto the track here with Julian Godfrey. They run side by side on the exit of the corner, and Vittles manages to get the overcut perfectly then on Julian Godfrey and is now sitting in second position as they come onto the final lap. So a perfect Joker strategy then here from Robert Vittles, proving once again why he is held in such high esteem in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship here. But what about Derek Tohill then? He is doing an absolutely superlative job out on track here, and he's only got a couple of corners separating him from an amazing win in 2021. Out of the final corner comes Derek Tohill, over the line he goes, and he wins round 5 of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship then here at Knockhill in Scotland. Robert Vittles comes home in second. Julian Godfrey finishes in third. Ollie O'Donovan P4. After such a promising start, the Northern Irishman will be so disappointed with a P4 finish ahead of Steve Hill and Tristan Ovenden. Mike Seller will come home 7th and last on the grid. But once again, another brilliant drive from Derek Tohill. He wins the final of round 5 here in Scotland. The Irishman is absolutely elated with that result, and I am not surprised at all, because that has been a very welcome result for him, just as a matter of fact, because of course he hasn't really had any strong results since the opening weekend of the year at Linden Hill. Yesterday, he ended up in the barrier at one point, and I really thought that might have been his weekend over. Managed to get the car repaired, got it all turned around, and now the following day he goes and wins round 5 here in Scotland. A great result from Derek Tohill, and another supreme weekend of racing here at Knockhill in Scotland for the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship.
That smile says it all. That was a very sweet win.
Yeah, I tried to make sure we had a smile after the finals. It's a big fight off the start line with Ollie. I knew it would be, but I didn't let him bully me. I held my ground, and it was great.
Massive thanks to my team. I destroyed the car in Q1. Huge job, massive job. They are top level guys, I have to say. They fixed the car for the final. Last minute adjustments, we went out, and yeah, that's why I really could show what I can do. Yeah, really.
Really pleased. It's put me back in the sort of closer in the championship. I'm not sure where I am yet, but it's brought some good points this weekend or today, and hopefully this puts a fight for the last 2 rounds.
So the championship fight continues, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about point standing. We lost quite a lot in qualifying, but everything's finished only when it's the last checkered flag. So yeah, we will do our best.
So that's it from Knockhill in Scotland, and what a weekend it's been. Next stop, we'll return to Linden Hill with the prospect of night racing. So hope you can join us then, but until the next time, it's goodbye from Scotland.